Hola. Alright, let's get going then. So, yeah, let's just dive in. And let's import let's make a new project. Let's make it 2K. I can always upraise it later. Let's select my model and okay that. Here's my model. So those of you who've been following the stream will recognise this. I've done a lot of, not a lot of work, but I did go basically rebuild the model to make it a bit nicer to work with. And I tried a lot of different design things. So didn't really want you to kind of like see me musing about life too much in front of this model, so I just tried to get along with that in the background so that we're in a better state to kind of get on with things. I haven't textured, or rather I haven't UV mapped the engine. I was considering trying the Substance Painter Auto UV tool for that, but I honestly haven't had time to test it. So I think what I'm just going to do is slap something at it and see what it looks like, and if it's vaguely the right colour I can live with it, because I'm still trying to be in more of a concept kind of workflow rather than a finished, polished workflow. So I'm just going to find some sort of metal from my library and go with that, like this one? I don't know, let's just drag it in and see what it looks like. There we go. Dude, Alan, how you doing, man? So, and that will do. I think that will do for the purposes of this demo. Because it's going to be that big in the final image, maybe that big. And I can always go and paint over it in Photoshop or something. So if you look at the UVs for this engine, it's just total crap. Nonsense, really. I think it's more of a Max problem to assign decent materials and separate out the different colours and tweak it in Max. So I'm not going to worry about it too much here, really. I might change some of the colourings. So I want to kind of tackle the right problems in the right place. Ah, Alan, you're finished with uni, dude. So a weird time to be trying to start out. I would ask if you know what you're going to do next, but I think it's just impossible to know. I don't know what I'm doing next. Start making lockdown movies, I think, is kind of the way to go next. Like, it's such a weird time to document stuff. Right, so let's start looking at the body. There's not much to the UV maps. I actually haven't looked at this for a week, so I'm just sort of revising what I've done. And I'm sort of intrigued to maybe try this in Substance Painter, and then maybe go over and try Armor Paint. Do the same thing in Armor Paint and see what it's like. So Armor Paint is this. They've just got well, they've not just, but they've got now got an Epic grant to kind of do stuff. And so we've got like Armor Paint, Quixel, and Epic all working together, and that is a pretty potent kind of force to be reckoned with, I think. So you've got a live link with the Unreal Engine, all kinds of stuff, direct acceleration, GPU path traced in viewport. That's very interesting, real-time stuff. So it's going to be like fancy graphics card stuff and maybe some Unreal Engine tech, I don't know. I think this is built off the back of a Blender. It's like a branch of the Blender kind of code to maybe just do the stuff. What I find interesting about this is you got a node graph in here, and this is one of the things that's just pissing me off with Substance Painter, is that I can't do the things I want to. The only reason I've held off doing this is because it's just another thing to learn. But that looks really interesting. So I'll maybe do something on that later. So let's get my pure ref up again and just remind myself what I'm doing. So as it's just you, Alan, right now, like, dude, if you've got anything you want to see, I could just stop doing this and do something else. So I think I'm much better with the whole question and answer thing than I'm necessarily doing it. Like, when I get sucked into doing my own thing, I tend to meander a bit. Right, so I'm interested in these kinds of textures and this kind of shapes for the windows. And so I've been building in the background. I've got building some my own substance nodes. So let's just grab that and have a quick peek. I've got my video in the corner because, you know, I think that's cool, but totally not paying attention to see if it's getting in the way of any important bits of information. So let's have a look at what I've done. So this is kind of the finished version of something I was working on the last live stream. And I've exported it to, let's zoom in. So we've got some bolts. I spent way too long making this, considering it's really just to help me do a bit of visualization. I just really got too into this. Made some funky bits of code to generate bolts and straight lines. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail. What I'm going to say is that I'm going to export this now to a folder as Space Windows, save it, yes. And then, having had a chat with some guys in Discord, some Substance, I was having some issues like building my own things and trying to kind of continuously update them. So apparently the way to do this is Windows, I hate you. Why is that right click there? So I'm going to import some resources. Actually, why don't I just drag and drop it? Let's see what happens. That'd be much more fun. So this is my Substance Designer toys that I've made, and I want this one. Drag and drop it to here. It's going to tell me that I'm adding a resource, and I'm going to add it to as a generator, and I'm going to add it to the project. That's quite important. So by adding it to the project shelf, that means that's the wrong one. That's my period window. I don't want that one. I want my space window. Let's do that again. So it's going to be a generator. So when you import something to the project shelf, then you can right click on and you get this reload option. If I right click on something else in one of the other windows, you don't get the reload option, which is really annoying. So if I'm developing a tool and kind of using it in situ, then I need to reload it constantly as I change parameters and stuff. So now, and that's the other thing that's annoying, you have to get the metadata right, otherwise it doesn't work. So can I remove these from the shelf? Let's just try that. No. Let's try that again. So this has got to appear as a material, otherwise you can't do the drag and drop trick. So we need to do import it to the project. It's going to be a base material. So I can now set it to the right parameters. I can drag and drop it onto the mesh. So if I press Alt as I'm doing this, you can see I'll get a little window, and now I get my massive space window on the mesh as a decal, and then I can manipulate this into place. Like this. So this is just a fill layer with a planar projection on, so I can do this manually. I don't have to do this whole funky decal dragging thing. Yeah, so I'm not going to be using all the materials that I've created, or other. Done some other stuff. You can see the resolution is really shitty, but if I up the resolution of the render, that would be better. I can drag this. Alright, that's the surface tool, and this, if I drag this around like that, it will keep it aligned. The annoying thing about this, and this is why I want to look at armor paint, because I feel like this is something that I ought to be able to, build my own things to get around, but you can only drag decals onto one side at a time. You won't copy it over. Why? Why would I only want a decal on one side if I'm doing a hard surface? If I'm doing a hard surface model, I want it on both sides. So that's really annoying. And let's just scale it into place and we'll be done with it. So now I've got that in place, I can make some adjustments to it, mainly to I think the frame size is too big. Maybe something like that would be better. I think we're seeing crappy resolution on the that'll do. So I think my idea was that I was going to drag in so maybe I can duplicate this and then drag it across using that tool. Rotate it a bit and something like that. start build up a window outline. That's sort of interesting. Let's make a group for that. So I've done that in the folder, done that in the folder, turn that all off. Right, so now I've played with that tool. The other thing I want is just a general fill material, which I've downloaded from Substance Source, and it is something we used last week. Let's call it, is it Space Shuttle or Heat? So many textures. I think it's this. Or is it KZ? No, okay. Space. That's what I want. So let's drag and drop a material onto a portion of the mesh. I have no idea what that's going to do. Right, anyway, so that's my basic heat shield stuff. See, it's way too big. Let's scale it. So just going to whack up the number of tiles. Like that. And then try and get that appropriate scale, like maybe 4. Woo! Tiny! Not 42. 4. So this is a Substance Source material. I'm tempted to kind of mod it because I don't really like all this text stuff everywhere. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Maybe. There's a seam line down here, which is something I'm going to have to deal with. And I was kind of considering making a brush for that, but I think what I might do is just like fill it in and make it black. So let's just try and paint in some sort of mask for that leading edge to deal with that. So we need to get that layer below my folder. Come on. That's it. So now when I view this folder, then theoretically my my windows appear on top. Now because of the way this is blended, it's going to be a bit funky, but that will do for the moment. It's already giving us an idea of scale. And I guess actually I'm thinking that that's probably too small. These windows are too small for the right scale that I want, but I'm going to worry about that later. Let's just get the main colours in place. So let's make a mask for the top surface. So I'm going to add a new fill layer. You can see that it's the way it sums the layers is giving me this tile pattern. So I want to get rid of that at some point. And let's do that now. So let's go to height. I don't want it to add, I want it to be normal. And let's go to the normal map layer, normal map. I don't want that to be that blend mode, I just want it to be normal, and that erases everything. So really I should do that to my decal layer as well, to make sure that I'm not picking up any stuff in the layer beneath it. So now I have gone and made some other stuff. I need to go and find it. So it's called KZ. Let's have a look. KZ Space Station Thermal Padding. So let's just see if that's in here. Nope. So we're going to we'll drag that into the project then. So I'll show you what this does. So this is going to be a base material. Can import it to the project. Import that. Now would be a good time to save. Let's save this. Flatfish. V2. So if I can drag this into my base color layer now, into that slot. There we go, and that's my space station padding. And this is my own version of a substance source texture, which has got this use mask switch. So currently the mask has no alpha selected. So the idea is this: is that it's got these really nice edges here, between which border different segments of the material, and I wanted to be able to control that with a paintbrush. So let's have a quick look. Let's get the original space station. So if I drag and drop this into here, you'll see the difference. So the original material came with all this kind of big stuff, like decals and text and all kinds of crap that I don't need. So essentially what I did is I stripped all that out of the material and added a special masking feature so that I could do my own board boundaries with it, like create edges where I wanted them to be. You don't really get control of scale with this tool, which is a little bit annoying. Very well. Let's just have a go, see if this works. And you see, actually I've still got legacy shit in here, panel text amount, so that's not relevant anymore because I've turned that off. So let's just scale this. Too small. Ooh. The text thing is really twitchy. 20. Too small. 40. Oh no, 10. Ah, seriously, it just doesn't. Anyway, stop moaning. So that's better. That's a better scale. The low frequency repetition is really nasty. Like, I really don't like that stuff. So maybe just set this to 5 for the moment. 5. Let me type pin this properly. Move that is better. Yeah, that would kind of do. So I want to mask out this from the top. So let's add a bit more mask. And we'll just go and use this. Go to mask by UV set. Do I want the ship to look cold? Like an old shuttle. Yeah, I think so. I'm still sort of playing with it. The advantage of the materials is that that's all done. The advantage of these materials is like, I can't speak in English at the moment. The advantage of these materials is I can control the look quite effectively. So if I go back to this, oops, let's drag that back into a layer. Pop. Oh, I don't know why it doesn't let me drag that further up. This is why, one of many reasons why this tool is annoying me. Let's go to the material settings. So we've got rip positions and dirt level. So let's just turn off the dirt completely. Wait to regenerate. Now we've got a much cleaner look. Drop the rip down. Alright, let's just turn them off. Duke. Dude, if you've got a suggestion for an interesting topic, then shoot. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. I don't have a lot of time to prep this kind of stuff, so really you're literally just getting me off the cuff. But the way this really is best is, you know, if people want to come in, ask questions on the live stream, then I'll answer what people want to hear. So this is just me kind of like, to some extent, killing time until people ask me questions. So, you know, the whole point of these live streams is they're meant to be interactive. So if you want to interact, be my guest. So let's look at the let's just look at the substance source material stuff. Right, so this is the original material like this, and I think this is a pretty good technique in general, because like building these materials from scratch does take a long time. So there's a lot, it seems like there's a lot going on here, but once you unpick it, it's not that manic. So normally there's like a just sort of in terms of where we are, you kind of can work backwards. So let me see, we've got a, zooming back to here, Right, so there's normally a node like this, and that converts our PBR metal roughness to a diffuse workflow, diffuse specular, or rather glossiness specular workflow. So that can be binned, we don't care about that. The metallic is basically 0, so we don't care about that. So that just leaves us really with base color, which goes that way, and ambient. All these things are driven by the same thing. We just need to find our roughness, which is that. So really, so we've got height, base color, and roughness as our main things. So working backwards, we've got, quite often there'll be these curvature nodes. So if I double click on that, the curvature's basically picking up sharp edges. So if you think about the sharp edges in a surface, that's going to pick up more wear, I suppose. It'll be shinier. So the curvature map is driving sort of a brightness node. It's blending in on top of this. You've got this add subtract node, which is kind of darkening areas and lifting areas based on the curvature. So that's cool. And then we've got other stuff which we don't want. So we've got some panel text, warning label text, warning label outlines, all this kind of quite intense work actually to generate automatic labels. Like there's a lot of stuff going on here in the substance node for stuff that really we don't need. So you can just basically, things like this I feel like are more to make the material look cool in the library, but they don't actually, they're not very useful I think when you get down to actually using the tool in anger, as it were, because all that stuff you really just want to paint in Substance Painter, like directly. If I want a decal, I want to be able to drag it into position directly and not have to fuss about things. So you wanted to make a pirate ship recently, and I want to think about the best way to make the rope for rigging. Right, screw it then, let's ditch this and we'll talk about pirate ships, because that's what you want to hear about. Cool. I'm going to save this. Save. Don't care about that, no. Right, the first thing you need to know about pirate rigging, or rigging in general, is, I'm just going to take this over here so you can see my library. Is that, the best people to get reference from for some of this stuff are model makers. So, and because I couldn't find any other. So I've done this shipbuilding for Poldark, and so I hosed around the internet for various resources, and I came across like lots of really detailed ship modelling plans. So this is some of the stuff that I've found online, and there's some really good rigging instructions on how to build ship rigging and what it means. And what you find is that essentially it's all done in kind of the same way. Like the rope positions on these period ships are essentially done the same way. So let's see if I can open up a ship and we'll talk about that. Let's see if I can. Right. Just going through my archive, quickly find a chips. These XML files are cloth animations. Just wait for this to load. Whee, there we go. So I'm going to try and keep my eye on the comments thread now. There's a bit of a lag, I'm sorry about that, it's probably about a minute or something. So you just chuck a bunch of questions up on the thread and we'll see what we can get into in the time that I have left. So let's get rid of the cameras and sea surface. So I guess you've got kind of two kind of problems. One is like where does it go, and one is how do you place it. I see. Right. To some extent, that really depends on how distant you're going to get. So if you're making a pirate ship, to be honest, they're like pixel lines. Like 1 pixel lines. Tiny, tiny shit. So so this is like production ready ship stuff. Didn't bother like really with materials at all. So let's just see if I can find a material for it. So this is a V-Ray material, but I think the same thing applies really. The only thing I think I did do, I'm just going to browse down to see if I can find it, is I did make a bump map for it. Which I can't find. Clearly I can't find it, obviously. So this is just a flat colour. Just dropped, so the reflection glossiness here is quite high, just to get some highlights on it. Again, it's just going to be a line. They are kind of, so next thing is they are splines. So I'll just take that one for example. This is a spline. It's got this thing called an Spline IK controller, which allows me to move it. So you can see there's a little helper object up here, and that's connected to the Spline IK points. hide it a bit. It's a very simple arrangement. So we've got a corner here, a smooth point. That's a smooth point here, so that gives me the bow, like under gravity for the line. And then the Spline IK control takes care of the animation, connects it to everything, and allows me to move it around. The thing that I have done in the past, if I can find it, is to make a very simple yes, I can go into that process very quickly. I'll just quickly show the bump map for it and then we'll move on. So yeah, there we go. So that's the bump map. Like, it's so small you can't even see what's going on, but like that's like the rope twine. So you can see it's just this cylindrical gradient at 45 degrees. And the important thing is that it tiles, right? So that you can get the tiling all across the rope. So if I just maybe we'll just start again, and I'll just rig this really quickly. I'm really sort of annoyed that I can't find my reference because it's really good. I just want to give you an example of like how that works, the difference it makes. Oh yeah. So you can go and buy this PDF. It's called Rigging Period Ship Models. And it goes through every aspect of ship rigging. I don't think it's going to be very much. I'm sure you could find it other ways. So all these, all the ropes on all ships tend to work in the same way. And I think this is partly, it's technology, right? So the technology works in the same way to support the mast and stop the mast from breaking and falling over in the wind and all the kind of stuff, and allow this means, I guess, that if you're a sailor, you can kind of jump from ship to ship and you pretty quickly understand how the ship works, even if you've never observed it on before. So although it looks kind of random and complicated, there is like a rationale to all this rope placement, which you begin to sort of intuit as you build things like this. The other thing to bear in mind is unless you actually serve on these ships, nobody's going to know. So in the end, I just don't have time to go and place and rig all the ropes that are on a real ship, because it's just going to take too long. So there's about half the ropes you'd see on a real ship, and we've just got the main. Again, they're hitting the main silhouette shapes. So the things that are joining these high lines that are joining the masts, these crawling lines to go up and down the ship. I've just seen there's a really interesting map script called Contour on Script Spot Contour, which would allow you to kind of do this kind of thing. We've got little people in here. Oh yeah, they've got animation caches on them. I wonder if they move still. Oh yeah, they don't move. I should probably do a proper video on this rather than just off the cuff stuff. But anyway, this is fun. Is that got? Yeah, so that's max cloth simulation. All the sails are done with mixtures of cloth simulation and sort of noise, really. I did a presentation on this for 3D London a while ago. If I reset this, I'll just show you how the rigging works. Don't save. So the spline IK works like this. If I make a 3-point object, so the arrangement of the nodes is quite important. That's a corner, that's a corner, and that's going to be right click. It's going to be a smooth one. So you can see that now hangs. So I'm going to add a spline IK modifier. So you have to do this in a particular order or it doesn't work. So rather frustratingly, you can only create spline IK helpers from the modifier. You can't go and link them in afterwards, which is really annoying. So I'm going to create some helpers, and it creates 3 objects which are attached to the spline, or rather the spline is attached to them. And you can see that I forgot to unset this, so at the moment there's a hierarchy. So this helper is the child of this one, which is the child of that one. Don't really care about this, so I'm just going to let them all unlink it. So now they're all independent. So I want to. So now I can place my line like that, and then if this was attached to a sail or something, then it would waft around like that, and it does that. But I want this middle one to be controlled by the position of the other two, so I'm going to add another helper object. Like that, and I'm going to make this I'm going to assign a controller, I'm going to assign a position controller. It's going to be a position constraint. Add position target, that one, and that one. Like that. So that means that that helper object will now be in the midpoint of these 2 endpoints, like that. So I can now link this to that. Oops, like this. And align it. Let's just align it quickly. There we go. Then, oops, drag it down like that. So now we've got a bit of bow under gravity, and that all follows this line around like that, and that's basically how I rigged all the rope in the ship. So this could be attached, this end could be attached to a mast, this end is attached to the deck, and then this middle one is attached to some sort of control point to kind of simulate a bit of sag in the line. And I'm actually not sure if that is even vaguely realistic, because I'm pretty sure that these ropes are under so much friggin' tension to stop everything falling over that you wouldn't see any sag at all. But it's a little bit of artistic license to make it feel good. I think so the main ropes, you know, if the sail's not under tension, it'll probably sag quite a lot. If the sail's under tension, it's probably nearly straight. And then the ropes to the masts, like if I just draw a quick some cylinders. So like really stupidly fast. So even like the layout of masts, like there's fairly consistent between ships. Like where the sail placement is and what the names, because all the sails are named and everything. So it's not completely random. So basically you can just draw with a spline tool now where you want the rigging to be, and it makes a slightly tedious task, like placing all these ropes individually, less painful. So then I could add another cylinder, for example there, symmetry, taper, so it's tapered on both ends, so you can see that, got the symmetry mod. And now I've got kind of like a mast building tool, or I think I can't remember. I've forgotten all the names. I think this is a boom. That's where the top of the sail hangs from. So I can just make another one and another one. Shrink that one. So now you can see that I can attach this to my boom. And then somewhere over here would be a deck. See if this works. It's cloning it. I think I seem to remember it did weird things. Yeah. Just align that to that again. Okay. Yeah, there we go. And there we go. So the sail stuff I did do with crossings, I think probably it's a bit of a pain. So I cut out like a trapezoid shape and subdivided it a lot. Like that. Strictly speaking, there's a loop of rope that lashes this mast around this, so it actually rotates around this point, so you can make some sort of rigging aid for that, like a circle, and then align it to that, like that, and then all these masts would be essentially rigged to that same circle because they all share the same pivot point and they all move as one, because you want all these sails pointing at the same angle, because that's, you know, the way they're going to be most efficiently working with the wind. So now just align this all together. So now we've got another animation controller which will control our mast position like that. Yeah, I did nerd out a lot on ship design. Okay, so I think that is enough. I'm a bit sad about like the number of viewers I'm getting now. So it does feel like I'm boring people a bit. which is a bit sad. So, not quite sure what to do about that. I guess I could go back to making regular videos. Feels like this is pretty efficient for my time. But I think probably the thing that's going to work best is like a question and answer. So I guess I need to encourage people to ask questions somewhere, which I then answer in a live stream, and I think maybe that would be a better format to go forward with, because then people are attached to seeing what the answers are. So maybe I'll try and find a way to facilitate that, possibly with a mixture of Twitter and Discord and some other social media stuff. But anyway, Alan, so like, dude, I hope things are cool. I hope you're finding something to do. And yeah, like hit me up on Discord or something, or like post shit on Discord, showing what you're doing. Nice one, dude. See you later. I think I'm waving to camera. I can't really tell. I'm waving to camera. Yeah, I'm waving to camera. Oh, it's mirrored. Weird. All right, nice one, guys.